West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Well, the first thing Judge Juan Merchan did in the courtroom today, before bringing the jury into the room or bringing the witness into the room, was to rule in favor of Donald Trump on an evidentiary point. Donald Trump pretends that never happens. He stands in the very hallway of that courthouse, right outside the courtroom, speaking to microphones every day, ranting about how unfair Judge Merchan is. He appears to hate Judge Merchan and is very convincing in delivering that feeling. But he cannot hate the judge because the judge is unfair. He has to hate the judge for some other reason. Even Donald Trump knows that the judge is fair. Today, half of the Trump lawyer objections were sustained. And there weren't that many objections because the trial was proceeding fairly under Judge Merchan's guidance. But the judge did say something today that we know enrages Donald Trump. It was in the round of the judge's good mornings to the lawyers on both sides. He said, "Good morning, everyone." And then he said, "Good morning, Mr. Trump." And of course, Mr. Trump is blasphemy to the man who demands that his lawyers and everyone around him call him by his former official title. Good morning, Mr. Trump. It was not a good morning for Mr. Trump when Michael Cohen took the witness stand to testify against him. Witness Cohen delivered all of the essential elements of the criminal charges against Donald Trump in his testimony. District Attorney Alvin Bragg was watching from the spectator section on the prosecutor's side of the room after being publicly called Fat Alvin by Donald Trump at his rally in New Jersey this weekend. At that same rally in New Jersey, Donald Trump said he could not call former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie a, quote, fat pig. Could not call him that. Said it out loud, of course. The deep perversion of Trumpism that is on display in moments like that is that extremely overweight people at Trump rallies, and I mean even more overweight than Donald Trump, laugh at that use of the word fat as if they are living on some other planet where harsh adjectives only apply to people they don't like and can't possibly apply to themselves. Such is the madness of Donald Trump, which apparently contains enough contagion to infect many millions of his followers. Michael Cohen was once one of those followers. Before anyone ever thought of voting for Donald Trump, Michael Cohen's view of Donald Trump was close to worshipful. According to his testimony today, Michael Cohen felt, quote, "I was on top of the world when Donald Trump told him it was fantastic That was Donald Trump's word, fantastic, that Michael Cohen got vendors who did work for fraudulent Trump University to accept 20% of the amount of money Donald Trump actually owed them for work done at the university. The word fantastic came up 4 times in Michael Cohen's testimony, always quoting Donald Trump's reaction to good news, often involving the cover-up of bad news about Donald Trump. According to Michael Cohen's testimony, Donald Trump thought this was fantastic. A cover story in the National Enquirer titled, "The Donald Trump Nobody Knows!" The National Enquirer let Michael Cohen edit that article as part of the Enquirer's deal with Donald Trump to publish positive stories about him and terrible stories about his political opponents, and to catch and kill any stories about Donald Trump having sex with women other than his wives while married to those wives. The word that we heard in court almost as much as fantastic today was catastrophic. That's what Michael Cohen called the Access Hollywood video that showed Donald Trump bragging about his favorite methods of sexual assault. And that's what Michael Cohen said Stormy Daniels' story would be if it became public before the election. Catastrophic. And so, in the final days of the presidential campaign of 2016, a scheme was hatched to buy Stormy Daniels' silence. According to Michael Cohen's testimony, Donald Trump told Michael Cohen, quote, to take care of it. Question. And did you ask him at that time whether he had had a sexual encounter with Stormy Daniels? Answer, I did. Question, did he answer you directly? Answer, no, ma'am. Question, what did he say? Did he say anything in response to that? Answer, no, ma'am. Question, did he mention anything about what she looked like? Answer, he said she was a beautiful woman. Donald Trump repeatedly told Michael Cohen, quote, just take care of it. We kept hearing that line today over and over again. According to Michael Cohen's testimony, Donald Trump said, quote, this is a disaster, total disaster. Women are going to hate me because this is really a disaster. Women will hate me. Guys may think it's cool, but this is going to be a disaster for the campaign. That's what Donald Trump thought the Stormy Daniels story could be, a disaster for the campaign. Michael Cohen quoted Donald Trump saying, quote, what I want you to do is just push it out as long as you can. Just get past the election, because if I win, it has no relevance. I will be president. If I lose, I don't even care. Question, did you bring up at the time the topic of his wife, Melania, in one of those conversations with Mr. Trump? Answer, I did. Question, what did you say to him in substance to him? Answer, I said to him, and how's things going? How's things going to go with upstairs? Question, were you concerned about that? Answer, I was. Question, and what, if anything, did he say to you about that? Answer, don't worry. He goes, how long do you think I will be on the market? Not long. Question, what did you understand that to mean? Answer, he wasn't thinking about Melania. This was all about the campaign. Michael Cohen on the witness stand is like Donald Trump in AA. Michael Cohen was once, in many ways, as bad as Donald Trump, threatening people, acting in a gangster-like way. But on the witness stand today, he was a different person. And he said something Donald Trump would never say, could never say. He used a phrase Donald Trump could never use. When Michael Cohen talked about wanting to at least be considered for White House Chief of Staff, which he admitted he was not qualified for. He said that he just wanted to be on the list, kind of publicly on the list. He wanted people to think he was being considered for the job of White House Chief of Staff, quote, solely for my ego. That is a line Donald Trump could never speak, solely for my ego. It explains everything Donald Trump does, every breath he takes, but Donald Trump could never admit anything like that, the way Michael Cohen admitted that today. That is the new Michael Cohen, who sees his ego now as one of the problems that drove him in a criminal direction with the egomaniacal and unrepentant Donald Trump. Michael Cohen on the witness stand today in the courtroom was unlike any version of Michael Cohen you have ever seen. He was not fighting back at the questions and being belligerent the way he was when he appeared on TV in 2016 as a campaign surrogate for Donald Trump. He was not sounding like the gangster he wanted to sound like when he was calling up reporters then and threatening them during that first Trump presidential campaign. He was not making fun of Donald Trump or taunting Donald Trump as he has done so frequently and recently on social media. It was not the emboldened Michael Cohen who has turned against Donald Trump and publicly attacks him. It was Michael Cohen, the lawyer, knowing how a witness should sound on the witness stand: calm, deliberate, careful, clear, sometimes vivid. As the 6 hours of testimony wore on, Michael Cohen became more comfortable on the witness stand, and more importantly, perhaps, the jury probably became more comfortable with him. Every courtroom becomes a community in a multi-week trial like this, with the same people coming into the room every day. And Michael Cohen became the new neighbor in that community today. He was not the fool that he had been in the past. He was not the monster that he had sometimes been in the past. He was, for those Manhattan jurors who will judge this case, very much one of them. Everyone living in Manhattan knows a guy who looks and sounds like Michael Cohen. Most of the guys we know who look and sound like Michael Cohen don't have criminal records like Michael Cohen. They don't have a dark criminal past like Michael Cohen. Most apartment buildings in New York have a guy or several guys like Michael Cohen who you can run into on the elevator at any moment and exchange a cheerful greeting. The jury did not look perplexed by Michael Cohen. But this jury is especially good at not giving away the slightest hint of what they are thinking. Michael Cohen, more than any other witness who has testified in that courtroom, delivered his testimony directly to the jury today. At all the right times when it could be effective, Michael Cohen physically turned toward the jury a little bit, turned his head and his eyes to them, to deliver his answer directly to them, creating the effect of someone trying to help the jury understand. Given the wild range of public behavior we have seen from Michael Cohen over the years, the prosecution could not have delivered a better version of Michael Cohen to this jury today. The real test will come when cross-examination starts tomorrow. If Michael Cohen can maintain the sober tone he set today, if Michael Cohen can maintain his calm, deliberate response in the face of attacks, then this case will go to the jury as solidly as the prosecution could hope for. Michael Cohen has at times been a horrible person, but the jury also discovered today that he is the son of a Holocaust survivor who made it to this country and fulfilled his dream of living a better life here. The jury discovered that Michael Cohen is devoted to his wife, his son, and his daughter, and that Michael Cohen now lives a life full of regrets. And what was Donald Trump doing during Michael Cohen's testimony? 10 minutes into the testimony, Donald Trump closed his eyes, tilted his head back, probably trying to communicate to us, I couldn't possibly be falling asleep at 9:40 a.m., so don't consider my closed eyes to be proof of sleep. His eyes are closed in the course of the day much, much longer than anyone would reasonably close their eyes for any purpose other than sleep. And his head tilts to a side sometimes and slumps. When Donald Trump's eyes were open today, I could see over his shoulder that he was frequently reading from typed quotes of public commentators supporting him. The top name on the page that I could see him reading was Mark Levin in bold print, the right-wing commentator. And underneath that statement was a statement by Mark Levin made about this case that Donald Trump liked. And below that, the bold print name of Andrew McCarthy was there, a lawyer who said something Donald Trump liked about this case. If Donald Trump's defense lawyers came up with this plan of handing him, in effect, fan mail to read during the trial, it has worked brilliantly. because to the jury, it looks like the defendant is maybe examining some important documents in the case because they can't tell what's on the other side of those papers that he's holding up to his face to read. And those comments that Donald Trump spent the day reading endlessly, praising him and attacking this case, are the perfect behavioral corrective tool for Donald Trump in the courtroom. It means his eyes are open and he's reading and he seems alive instead of a sleeping baby. And these papers that he holds up to read work with all the power that a pacifier brings to a 2-year-old. They keep him under control. The courtroom has 4 60-inch or so TV screens around the room which show exhibits when they are discussed. And the rest of the time, those screens show 4 different video shots of the courtroom. The top of the screen is occupied by one box of video showing the judge and another box of video of a much closer focused shot of the witness. And the bottom of the screen has a box on the left of the screen showing the district attorney's table of lawyers and the podium for the attorney who's asking the questions. And then on the right side of the screen on the bottom is the Trump defense table, which requires a much wider shot because it has an extended piece which includes additional lawyers. And there is a band across the bottom of the screen under that wide shot that includes the date written out, May 13th, 2024. And under the prosecution box, that side of the video screen, it says New York State Unified Court System. On the right side of the bottom of the screen, right below Donald Trump, it says New York County Supreme Criminal. That is meant to be the description of the kind of courtroom you are in. But every day, Donald Trump spends his day on those TV screens, apparently without ever noticing the powerful irony of the words he is sitting on top of on those screens all day. New York County Supreme Criminal.
It is Tuesday, the 14th of May of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl. And she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays, a small scant dash. A mere pinch of hot smoked Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world. It always has, and it always will. Oh, yeah. Well, we got another day ahead of us of Michael Cohen taking the stand, this time on cross. And, well, we'll see how that turns out. Maybe he'll reveal some more little tidbits that the world should hear. But it'll be probably twisted a bit by the likes of a Maggie Haberman. Oh, boy. Between her and Judge Cannon, you think that they should all be at the defense table. You'd think. Well, anyway, what else do we have going? Everything, actually. Today is a primary day in quite a few states, so get out and vote. We have a primary coming up next week. So I got to get my ballot in, and here in Oregon, I've been a little, shall we say, preoccupied. Yeah, Mom and I got our ballots the Monday after she died. She passed away on a Saturday and got our ballots, mail-in ballots, in the mail the next, that Monday. So, and what's sad is that the previous election, I always had her fill it out and whatnot. But she put her ballot in the ballot envelope and sealed it, but did not sign the ballot. So there was no way to cure it. And so she was not able to vote the last time. I actually went into the polling place, asked if there was like another envelope that I could get so that I could, take it to my mom and have her sign it. They said no. And by that time, because of my mistake, sometimes I would wait to put the ballots in on Election Day. I should have put it in earlier. There might have been time to get it fixed. So I'm very sad about that because my mother never missed an election. In fact, when we were kids, we'd get dressed up like it was Sunday and we'd go with my mom to go vote in our Sunday finest because it was a respectful activity. We had to pay it the respect it was due, and now, apparently voting is a commie plot to take over America from the MAGAs. Well, yeah, that's what democracy is about. They don't even like the word democracy because it sounds too much like Democrat. Oh, yeah, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. Hey, pal, did you know that a republic is a democracy? Come on, get a clue. Yep, the people who know the least amount of history of our country, except for their little historical revisions on the Civil War, or as they would call it, the Northern War of Aggression. Nope. They are all the same, and they don't seem to want to change. Nope, they want to change us. Think about the moral clarity it takes to defend a slaver. All of what we are going through right at this very moment is because a handful of states decided they wanted to put other human beings in balls and chains and make them work until they drop dead. And another handful of states said, you cannot treat human beings that way. And then the handful of states in the first case said, they're not humans. So that makes it okay. All right. And now here we are. We elected the black guy twice. And they are going to punish us for the rest of our lives, maybe more. So I really don't have much, shall we say, patience with the MAGA Nazi anymore. Nope, I don't. Not when they lie, they threaten, they cheat. And then they whine when they don't get their way, or someone has the audacity to say, you know what? You're wrong and I have proof. Oh, you do? You have proof? You'll never get anybody to read it because we're going to lock you down. We are going to cancel you. So I remain under restriction in the lead up to an election here in this state on the town Facebook page because I have the audacity to actually link and post from government organizations, from government departments, their own reports. Now the MAGA, all they have to do, they don't even have to link to anything unless it's Fox. Then they'll link to that. But they can just lie. And then when you refute the lies, you were put on restriction for posting government reports that are obviously part of the deep state, and those are the real lies. They can prove that we have 20% inflation, and yet when you show that inflation is still standing at 3.7% for the last 12 months, you will be accused of spreading disinformation. Topsy-turvy world we have here. and Zuckerberg and the Musks and et al. Working hand in glove to turn our country into a Nazi state. Okay. I also was put to task because I tried to explain to people that, if you're hating on trans people, that's the very definition of bigotry. Oh, I'm name calling. Once again, I didn't call them bigots. I mean, they are. But I never called anyone a bigot. I said their actions are bigotry. Well, they know that they're bigots. And, of course, I'm the one name-calling after they called me a commie baby eater, I don't know, any number of pejoratives that have to do with, being a liberal, a Democratic voter. I'm held up for ridicule for daring to express compassion for another human being rather than denigrating them as being subhuman. I am the divisive one. Damn right. You say that a human being is not a human being, I will be divisive about that. Excuse me. So with that in mind, I speculated, well, should I, for the first time since Mom and I moved here, do I put up a political yard sign? I learned very quickly when we moved here into town that maybe a visible show of your political beliefs might be a mistake. I've already had a car with its tires slashed because I had impeach Nixon bumper stickers on it. And then when I replaced the tires, I had my windshield smashed out, and somebody tried to set the inside of the car on fire. We had crosses burned on our lawn growing up. When I mentioned that here, the MAGAs tisked and wondered, well, what was it that you did that caused a cross to be burned on your lawn? As if my dad having his colleagues come to the house for a soiree, his colleagues from the university, to have a little soiree at the house, and of course, they are black, Asian, from all over the world, and that was a little too much for the Ku Klux Klan in the neighborhood. So that's what I grew up with. So I thought maybe it might be a bad idea, and it was corroborated because I did say, when I made this speculation public on social media, because I would never do that when Mom was here because I didn't want to jeopardize her safety. And now I worry about the dogs. My best friend's brother, Eric Koningshofer, ran for county supervisor. Or maybe it was his first run for Congress, and he'd already been a county supervisor a few times. He at one time was the youngest elected official in the United States, Eric Koningshofer was in Sonoma County. But some rednecks near Monterey didn't like the idea that Eric Koningshofer was running for Congress. I believe it was his first run. So they strychnined his dogs. And I got to tell you, strychnine is not a fun way to go. It is painful. It is cruel. So this political terrorism has been going on for a very long time. And I've got to tell you, I am hard-pressed to find any Antifa threatening people for the way they vote. Oh, yeah, maybe Antifa might expose some Nazis, but they don't show up at their house in the middle of the night with Klieg lights and 30 or 40 Harley revving Nazis on their Harleys at 3 a.m. in the morning. So, It was a speculation, but I already knew the answer. I'm not going to put up a yard sign. I've got good insurance, but I don't want to lose my dogs. And then, because of this political terrorism, MAGA will point out in the world and say, you see Trump flags and yard signs everywhere, and you never see a Biden sign. Well, yeah, people want to keep living in their houses and not living in a burned husk. If they live. Oh, boy. So MAGA here in town is still wondering, how was it that Joe Biden won? There's no way. No one like Joe Biden because, look, no one put up a sign. Yeah, I know. Some of us don't, go out and get in people's face and say, fuck you. Fuck Joe Biden. Fuck. Because as soon as Kamala Harris says, fucking kick the doors down. Oh my God, the vapors. I was in the local pub last night, wanting to have a quiet little dinner, or something for dinner. And this bearded, rather, shall we say, bulky, 30-something, total redneck. Every other word out of his mouth was fuck. Did anyone tell him that maybe he should tone it down? Did anyone complain? Not one. Fuck this, fuck that, fuck Joe Biden, fuck this, fuck that. Fucking, hey, you just got off work? Fuck, man. Come sit the fuck down. Fuck. But you should have heard the outrage when people had found out that Harris had said, fuck. It's like they believe that none of us are gun owners. They think we're being hypocritical because we actually make money. You're a Democrat. You shouldn't want to make money. Get out of here. Jeez. First of all, I'm into free enterprise, okay? Maybe I might be a little critical of capitalism in the macro aspect. I've always liked free enterprise. But I'm also a big fan of regulation because I'll be damned if I get poisoned by the pickle juice. And then Hillary gets pilloried because she mentions a truth. Kids have no sense of history. They have no background in it. They don't know shit. It's true. One of the things that pissed me off the most when I started college is that I was forced, and believe me, I tried to test out of this. They wouldn't have it. It was a rule that every incoming freshman had to sit in these remedial classes like history and math and English. God, I had to sit in a room with a bunch of lazy dimwits who were being taught in one semester what they should have been taught in 4 years of high school, but they didn't put in the effort to do it. So then I was forced to waste a semester of my life because of these people's laziness. So damn right, Hillary's correct. And even Ida B. Wells says, oh, it's so wrong to say that these kids don't know anything. What? Have you not taught history? Every history professor says this. Every incoming freshman class is judged by the fact that they don't know shit. And we got to devote, in some cases, a whole semester to bringing them up to speed, hopefully. So, when a youngster says that Palestine was illegally taken from them in 1948, I think actually the law was behind that. Not lawlessness. And there was a big reason for it. To disregard that means they have no sense of history, and Hillary was right. So, well, I just noticed that I have been going on for quite a bit, and we had quite a bit of an opening there that took up some time, so I should really now quickly tell you what we have in store for you for the rest of the show here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The curated part, because we take the time to curate. So we might as well give you the curated content. Well, what is that curated content? Well, we started off there with Michael Cohen on the witness stand, and everybody has something to say about that, and we'll see what they say about his appearance today. A Florida man was sentenced to 3 years in prison for firebombing a California Planned Parenthood clinic. A large group of Republican attorneys general took legal action against the Biden administration and California over new emissions limits for trucks. And the MAGA-controlled Nebraska GOP is rejecting all Republican congressional incumbents in today's primary election. None of the incumbents are MAGA enough. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where 3 men were charged in the United Kingdom with assisting the Hong Kong Intelligence Service. And President Biden blocked a Chinese-backed crypto mining firm from land ownership near a Wyoming missile base. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Are going to tuck right into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and it is by the hardworking staff at the Associated Press. A 21-year-old Florida man was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for firebombing a Southern California Planned Parenthood clinic in 2022, federal prosecutors said. Xavier Batten pled guilty in January to 1 felony count of possessing an unregistered destructive device and 1 misdemeanor count of intentionally damaging a reproductive health services facility. Only a misdemeanor? U.S. District Judge Cormac J. Carney also sentenced Batten of Brooksville, Florida, to 3 years of probation and ordered him to pay $1,000 in restitution. I think he got a slap on the wrist. Carney said Batten had committed a cowardly crime that showed no empathy for women and their rights. According to the statement, he has been in federal custody since July of 2023. He probably thinks that's a compliment. The clinic in Costa Mesa was bombed on March 13th of 2022. Surveillance footage showed 2 men throwing a Molotov cocktail at the front door of the medical facility. The clinic was closed at the time and no one was injured. A co-defendant, 24-year-old Chance Brannon, was sentenced last month to 9 years in prison, as reported here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Brannon, of San Juan Capistrano, California, was an active duty Marine stationed at Camp Pendleton at the time of the bombing. Marjorie A. Beck and Summer Ballantine of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasies, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. A large group of Republican attorneys general on Monday yesterday took legal action against the Biden administration and California over new emissions limits for trucks. Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers is leading a group of GOP attorneys general who filed a petition with the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit to overturn an EPA rule limiting truck emissions. A separate lawsuit against California claims a phased-in ban on internal combustion trucks is unconstitutional and will hurt the U.S. economy. Hilgers, in a statement, said the EPA and California rules will devastate the trucking and logistics industry, raise prices for customers, and impact untold numbers of jobs across Nebraska and the country. They said the same BS about seatbelts. Damn them. EPA officials have said the strict emission standards will help clean up some of the nation's largest sources of planet-warming greenhouse gases. The new EPA rules are slated to take effect for model years 2027 through 32, and the agency said they will avoid up to 1 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions over the next 3 decades, which I got to tell you, it's priceless. Marjorie A. Beck brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. In one of the most closely watched congressional races this year, U.S. Rep. Don Bacon of Nebraska is looking to defeat a fellow Republican in today's primary election in his quest for re-election. He'll have to do it without the support of the state Republican Party, though, which has endorsed his primary challenger. Bacon, whose district includes the state's largest city of Omaha, isn't the only one being snubbed. The Nebraska GOP, which was taken over by those loyal to former President Donald Trump during a contentious state convention in 2022, has refused to endorse any of the Republican incumbents who hold all 5 of the state's congressional seats. The state party has endorsed primary challengers to Pete Ricketts and Adrian Smith, who represents the state's vast rural 3rd congressional district, and it has declined to issue endorsements in the primary races of Deb Fisher and Mike Flood, who represents the 1st congressional district that includes the state capital of Lincoln. Both Fisher and Flood face primary challengers who entered those races after the Nebraska GOP announced its decision in January. It's an oddity that lays bare the bitter divide between Trump loyalists who control the Nebraska GOP, as well as several county Republican parties, and the more establishment-type Republicans who were previously at the helm, said John Hibbing, a longtime University of Nebraska-Lincoln political science professor. Well. Republicans in disarray. Darn. Well, that brings us to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to
netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution. And you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage. Because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by-in for the people. The corruption trial of U.S. Senator Robert Menendez started May 13th for allegedly taking gold bars and cash in exchange for favors. May 3rd, the U.S. Justice Department announced bribery charges against Congressman Henry Cuellar. May 9th, news surfaced that former President Donald Trump promised U.S. oil executives he'd roll back climate regulations and ask for $1 billion in contributions. According to reporting by the Washington Post, Trump's brazen ask occurred at an April dinner with U.S. oil and gas executives. He told them they could afford to contribute $1 billion to his campaign and promised he would expand drilling in the Arctic and Gulf of Mexico and roll back Biden administration climate rules. You'll get it on the first day, he reportedly said. Menendez, former chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, is accused of doing political favors for the government of Egypt, an Egyptian-American businessman, and a New Jersey developer in exchange for gold bars, cash, and a Mercedes convertible. Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar was indicted May 3rd for allegedly taking $600,000 in bribes from Azerbaijan's state-owned oil and gas company and a Mexican bank. He could face decades in prison. Campaign finance complaints will likely be filed against Donald Trump, but it's unlikely the dysfunctional Federal Election Commission would take action, because there were no gold bars involved. Find more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1913. That was the day Philadelphia longshoremen walked off the job. Led by the industrial workers of the world, the strike was remarkable for its militancy, its industrial unionism, and its interracial organizing. The Wobblies had been fighting to organize workers in the city for years. Unionizing efforts included Amalgamated Local 57, which organized workers across whole industries. Attracted to the IWW's message of interracial unionism, black longshoreman Ben Fletcher joined up readily and soon emerged as an early leader of Local 57 and then Longshoremen's Local 8. In his book, Wobblies on the Waterfront, historian Peter Cole notes the origins of the local started with the striking sugar refinery workers on the banks of the Delaware. Dockers made contact with the IWW during the strike and drew up a list of grievances and demands. And by this day in 1913, 1,500 longshoremen struck for a leveling of the hourly wage for all workers, regardless of skill, shorter hours, and union recognition. They held strike meetings every day and elected a committee of 15 with representatives from every ethnic and racial group. Cole notes this was crucial, given the diversity of the dock's 4,000 workers. More than a third were black, another third were immigrants. The committee included Poles, Jews, blacks, Irish, and others. Strikers took on their employers and also the police. Beatings, intimidation, and arrests of strikers occurred daily and intensified as the ship owners attempted to herd in scabs. 1,200 coal and iron ore handlers joined in on the strike. The port was solidly shut down, and by the end of the month, the shippers were forced to concede to most of the Wobbly's demands. Industrial unionism and interracial solidarity had won the day.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 54 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting a high around 85, which is nearly the same as yesterday. Looks like we'll have plenty of sunshine with winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies overnight with lows in the low to mid 50s, winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then a few clouds from time to time tomorrow with highs around 88. Winds out of the north and northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated very high here in Rogue River. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 29 parts per million. And that daytime UV index is very high at level 8, so do take care. Barometric pressure is rising for a little bit longer at 30.06 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 82%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that makes up the Weather Underground. It does. London is 62 degrees and cloudy. Paris is 60 with rain. Rome is 77 and sunny. Kabul is 68 degrees and partly cloudy. Hong Kong is 71 and clear. Tokyo is 61 and partly cloudy. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is a chilly 47 degrees and cloudy. Chicago, Illinois is 51 degrees and cloudy with a small craft advisory on that big old lake. And New York is 68 degrees Fahrenheit and fair. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Danica Kirka of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. The office manager of the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in London and two other men appeared in court yesterday, Monday, on charges that they helped Hong Kong's intelligence service gather information in Britain. Amid growing concern, hostile states are trying to interfere with democracy and economic activity in the UK. Chi Lung Peter Wei, age 38, Matthew Trickett, age 37, and Xingbui Yuan, age 63, were granted bail during a brief hearing at Westminster Magistrates Court. The men, who sat side by side in the glass-fronted dock, spoke only to confirm their identities. The Hong Kong government said one of the suspects was the office manager of the trade office, but he was not identified by name. Police allege that between December 20th and May 2nd, Yuan, Wei, and Trickett agreed to engage in information gathering, surveillance, and acts of deception that were likely to materially assist the Hong Kong Intelligence Service. The charges include allegations that the men broke into a residence on May 1st. The three were among 11 people arrested earlier this month in London and Yorkshire in northern England by counterterrorism police, using provisions of a new law that allows suspects in national security and espionage cases to be detained without warrant. The 8 other suspects were released without charge. The hearing came as Prime Minister Rishi Sunak delivered a speech in which he said Britain was facing increasingly dangerous futures due to threats from an axis of authoritarian states, including Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Tensions with China flared last year after a parliamentary researcher was arrested on suspicion of spying for Beijing, charges that Chinese officials called a malicious smear. The British government last year passed a new National Security Act that gave police additional powers to tackle foreign espionage. The legislation was needed to combat the ever-evolving threat of foreign interference and in response to the threat of hostile activity from states targeting the UK's democracy, economy, and values, the government said. The arrests were made on May 1st and 2nd, and the investigation is continuing. The next court appearance for the 3 suspects is scheduled for May 24th at the Central London Criminal Court. Hussein and Zeke Miller of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. President Joe Biden yesterday, Monday, issued an order blocking a Chinese-banked cryptocurrency mining firm from owning land near a Wyoming nuclear missile base, calling its proximity to the base a national security risk. The order forces the divestment of property operated as a crypto mining facility near the Francis E. Warren Air Force Base. Mine One Partners Limited, a firm partly backed by Chinese nationals, and its affiliates are also required to remove certain equipment on the site. This comes as the U.S. is slated today to issue major new tariffs on electric vehicles, semiconductors, solar equipment, and medical supplies imported from China, according to a U.S. official and another person familiar with the plan. And with the election season in full swing, both Biden and his presumptive Republican challenger, Trump, have told voters that they'll be tough on China, the world's second largest economy after the U.S., and an emerging geopolitical rival. Yeah, well, Trump's pretty tough on him. He got a lot of investments. The Monday divestment order was made in coordination with the U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, a little-known but powerful government committee tasked with investigating corporate deals for national security concerns that holds power to force companies to change ownership structures or divest completely from the U.S. A 2018 law granted CFIUS the authority to review real estate transactions near sensitive sites across the U.S., including F.E. Warren Air Force Base. Mine 1 purchased the land that is within 1 mile of the base in Cheyenne in 2022, and according to CFIUS, the purchase was not reported to the committee as required until after the panel received a public tip. Good on Joe. All right, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks, and we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.